this will actually work. I think it's working. I'll make a recording just in case. Okay, so hello. Welcome to Idealab Things. This is our ongoing series that we've been doing for 5 years now, I think, where we once a month we'll pick an interesting subject matter and we'll track down a bunch of interesting 3D printable objects or laser cut projects that pertain to that topic. And all of these projects that we're going to talk about are things that you could make in the Idealab. So I'm going to save all the links to the things that we're talking about so that you can view them in the description of this video. You'll also be able to see these on the Idealab YouTube channel. And today we're talking about camping things. Since it's summer and people like to go camping in the summer, it's a little hot for my taste, though I've been thinking about what's it called? Glamping. Air conditioning. If I could do camping and also have air conditioning, that sounds fine. Honestly, it's probably just for me, camping is like a 3-star hotel. Yeah, I'm an indoor kid. But I did find some pretty cool 3D printable objects, and I'm really just focusing on 3D printable stuff today. I got a bunch of links from Thingiverse, from Printables, from MakerWorld, from Cult3D, places like that, where you can submit these prints to be created in the Idealab. And when I'm done reviewing all of the objects, I'm going to show you how you can submit anything to be 3D printed using our print service. So let me switch my scene over here and let's open up the Google, make sure, yep, okay, cool. I'm going to turn this bookmarks bar off. No, maybe not. Bookmarks. Where'd it go? I thought there was like a hide. Oh, forget it. Let's just start looking at things. So these are a bunch of links that I found from Printables that I think are pretty cool. I'm kind of crazy about paracord. We keep tons of it in the Idealab, and it's useful for so many things. And I found this really nifty paracord tensioner, 2 different kinds, including one that's sort of a print-in-place model that you can modify with hardware. You can see how like this one up here is just completely print-in-place, no hardware. This one down here has got some hardware, and there's little like these little grabby things, and the tension will actually grab onto your paracord, and I think that's pretty nifty. And these are useful for all kinds of stuff when you're camping, like hold downs and tie downs and all kinds of things like that. This one's also pretty popular, so you can tell that it's a good and useful object. And this comes in handy when you're 3D printing anything in the Idealab, but when you're browsing websites like Printables or Thingiverse, how do you know if the thing that you're looking at is actually suitable for printing? One way to tell is the fact that, the preview picture, it's a photograph of a 3D printed object. It's not just a rendering. So we can see photographs of the successful print in action, but we can also see down in the makes section, there's 148 makes. That means at least 148 people have successfully printed this thing. So when you're browsing for stuff on 3D print databases like this, makes are always a good thing to look for. You can also see just in general, like this has over 6,000 likes, over 11,000 downloads. So very good indicators that this object is a good one. Also, the little trophy icon up in the top, that means that Printables, and they're one of the only ones doing this, they hold 3D modeling design contests. They'll pick a subject matter and they'll have people submit their designs, and then they'll award those designs, and usually the winner will get like a free 3D printer or something cool like that. So this was a first place in the ropes, cordage, and straps gear contest, which is fantastically nerdy, and I love it. Let's see, here's another one, another type of hold down. A third place, which is still pretty good when you consider that they get hundreds and hundreds of submissions for these things. Another cool design with little teeth in there, which is very nifty. This one doesn't have a print-in-place version, but it's got some pretty cool hardware and 3D printed components to make it work. If I was printing something like this that I knew was going to be under load and that it would need to resist that pulling force, I'd probably pick something tough filament-wise like PETG. It's also not going to get brittle from being out in the elements. It's not going to snap right away as soon as you pull on it. It's not going to melt in the hot sun or in your, RV or wherever you decide to put it. Somewhat related to the paracord thing, I found these nifty little rope hooks. These seems like they could be useful for all kinds of fun stuff. Super quick, versatile little model, and I like how they've put split rings on there for easy storage. There's that trophy again. This was given an award in the Backpack Boosters contest. That's pretty fun. I also really like seeing, the different kind of related models that the designer has put in the description. It's always fun to read the description. You'll get some insight into how the designer approached the challenge and what they have to say about it. Has anybody been camping yet this summer? Have there been any? Yeah? Where did you go? Any place good?
Yeah, it's in Harbor Beach.
Okay, cool. The last time I went camping, I went to one of the national forests up in the UP. I forget the exact one that I went to, and I picked the precisely wrong time of year because it had just rained, and it was like an atmosphere of mosquitoes. Like if I could have, if you weren't careful, you'd breathe them in, and it was okay as long as you were walking really fast in one direction. If you slowed down, they would catch up to you. If you're like speed walking down the hiking trails and you look behind you, you can see an ever accumulating cloud of them, like following in the wake of your CO2 emissions. That kind of turned me off of camping. I haven't been since then. I need to pick a place on Earth where mosquitoes aren't, and then go camping there. Like maybe Reykjavik or something like that. I thought this thing was adorable. It probably isn't all that useful for camping. I just think it's really, really cute. Turns your phone flashlight into a little cozy light. I suppose it could be useful. Your phone flashlight's pretty directional. This is going to turn that into a nice omnidirectional spread of light. And it just looks real cute. I like the multicolors and everything. I found a similar model that looks a little bit more useful. But, you lose the little cute lantern factor there. But yeah, these could actually come in handy. I like the designer's printability index. Very easy. Everything's easy to print in the Idea Lab because you don't have to do anything. You just submit your model to our website and then wait to get the email where we say, hey, come pick up your thing. Let's see here. Oh, this was another thing I experienced in my last camping trip. A tick. The first one and only one I've ever had in my life. And I saw that I had a tick on my leg and I freaked out because I didn't know what to do. But luckily we were right by the I forget what it's called, the forest ranger place, and they taught me that you can kind of spin them around to get them to come off. And here's a nifty little print that will facilitate that. And it's very, very reassuring to have a specialized tool if that should ever happen to you. I found another similar object, but this one is combined with a whistle, and I like how it's called a tick whistle keychain, as if somehow the ticks will be repelled by the whistling. But yes, love it. Very cool little geometric form. Got a little clip on it so you can hang it. And I guess there's just something about that little wedge shape that is particularly good at defeating the ticks once they get on you. I don't like ticks. I don't like organic life. I just want to be a tungsten cube, basically, and then I don't have to worry about ticks. Here's a cool thing, and I think we actually talked about this exact model in a previous episode of Idealab Things where we discussed specifically entire projects that can fit inside of an Altoids tin. But this one is pretty nifty. You can see how they've like got it to just repurpose whatever sort of rod you have, and with the use of some cable ties, you can turn any stick into a fishing pole. The little grommets and the little crank and everything like that, and I think that's pretty nifty. Just sort of a all-purpose fishing kit that you can slap in an Altoids tin. I would love it if more things could fit into Altoids tins. The first electronics project I ever undertook in life was for a little headphone amplifier that fit inside of an Altoids tin, and I felt super cool about that. It's probably gone. I have no idea where that thing went. Here's another nifty little potentially useful thing. And there's tons of variations on this idea of a cylindrical threaded container. This one's specifically sized for holding your camping cutlery, which of course, you know, I bought this exact set that sort of clicks together like that because I thought it was very cool. And as with anything that I'm interested in my life, it's more about the accessories than it is about the actual thing. So, you know, I had to go to the camping store and buy all the cool gear. But at the time, I didn't have an awesome 3D printed camping cutlery box. And speaking of cutlery, I thought this was another nifty little print. I like to think of this as like an emergency like cutlery kit, and you can see how it also mentions Altoids. Presumably this one's designed to fit into an Altoids tin. But I like how this is sort of like one of those old-timey model building kits where everything's connected by sprues to this little frame. So you could sort of twist them off or snip them off. The little emergency like, I guess there's supposed to be some sort of culinary tweezer, the little sort of scary looking combination fork and knife and spoon thing. Yeah, and a toothpick, I suppose. But yes, very, very silly, and I kind of love it. Surprisingly, there was quite a few variations on this theme. Here's one, a sort of luxury item. If you're camping in such a way that you get to have wine glasses with you, glamping, you could print these little things that I guess just sort of help to anchor your wine glass into the ground. So it can't tip if you get tipsy. But then, of course, it can be reconfigured in order to make some sort of votive holder. Yes? Why? I don't know. You turn it upside down and turn it into this. But like, what a weird, interesting shape. I love the multi-material aspect of it with the two colors. And we do have two printers now downstairs that can print multicolor or multi-material objects. So we've got our Bamboo Lab X1 Carbon and our brand new, literally just finished putting it together, Prusa XL, which can do up to 5 different colors in a single object. We'll talk more about that later. Same designer, same cool design, nifty little camping caddy. This definitely isn't for your backpacking trip. This isn't where you're trying to like conserve weight and space. This is like car camping, RV camping, that sort of thing. But what a crazy design, like the swirls, and it's just so ornamental, and you don't usually see that with 3D printed objects. Usually they're a little bit more function over form, and this one definitely seems like form is the primary. Very much so, yeah, very swirly. Like I would expect to see this as like a prop in a Beatles movie or something like that. Yeah, magnificent. I just thought that was too cool not to save. So now we're on to Maker World. This is one of the more popular 3D print databases that's out there. This is so like where Printables is sort of the Prusa sponsored 3D print database. Maker World is the Bamboo Labs sponsored database. They're both getting a lot of traction and a ton of usership. And the designs on both really seem to take advantage of the capabilities of both of those companies' printers. I just thought this was a nifty little kind of what they call a tent grip clip, but I feel like this could have a lot of different uses when you need just a little mechanical pincher, any kind of hold down force. That you can see they've got it in use with just a plain tarp here. I feel like this would be handy not just for camping, but for a lot of different things. It's kind of like, yeah, like a clothespin on steroids. So yeah, I thought that was cool. And there were several variations of this design as well. I did some Googling the other day because I was thinking about my gaming PC at home and how when it gets hot, it uses heat sinks to disperse the heat, right? Like fins of metal to disperse the heat out into the air. And I wondered, can a heat sink work in reverse? Can you use all the surface area of the fins to absorb heat and transfer that heat into an object rather than try to radiate the heat out of the object? And a little bit of Googling said, yes, it does work. There aren't a lot of situations where that kind of thing is called for, but one of the things that utilizes that sort of reverse heat sink principle are these jet boil camping stoves, right, that you put over top of one of these little gas canisters. And they boil water incredibly quickly because underneath them they have all these little fins of metal and all that surface area that can collect the heat and pump it into the metal and into the liquid. So when I was searching for camping things, a lot of things had to do with these little gas canisters. There were so many different variations, like you can see related models here on the side. So many different things about these gas canisters. And I've never used one of these little jet boil things before, but between the like Wikipedia rabbit hole that I went down the other day thinking about heat sinks and then seeing all of these 3D models for camping stove gas canister legs, I kind of want to just buy one of those jet boil things just for fun and play around with it. Here's another like exceedingly simple threaded cylinder, but this one specifically to hold your toothbrush, because nobody wants their toothbrush just rattling around inside of their backpack with their, I don't know, crampons. You never want your toothbrush and your crampons to touch. This one is a cool. It's not surprising to see a multi-material object being promoted on MakerWorld, because for a while they were kind of the best in the industry for making multi-material printers. And I kind of like this design that turns a plastic bag into like a cute little wastebasket thing and clamps onto your camping table. And it's got the nifty little multi-material logo going on there in the top. And you can sort of tell that it's got a nifty little clamp and like a sort of threaded thumb screw mechanism in the back there, which is nifty. I love a good 3D printed screw thread. When they work, they're very satisfying. Oh yeah, for sure. Yes, we can print objects from wee little tiny all the way up to about a 2-foot cube, like anything that'll fit into a 2-foot cube. So you can print big stuff. I think we're the only ones around that have a large format 3D printer, and we don't get nearly enough requests for it. So send us requests for big things. The biggest thing I've printed so far is we've got a trash can downstairs that's a large format trash can. This one I'm just kind of staggered by. It says camper leveling blocks. And I guess they think that you're going to use these to level your camper, like your RV? Yeah, which seems insane to me. That's a lot of faith in 3D printing, to pull your vehicle up onto something that's 3D printed. But honestly, based on the design and the geometry, why not? Go for it. There's some really, really tough filaments out there. They'd probably be fine. And like just sort of anecdotally, when people ask me like, oh, do you print that in ASA? How strong is that? And I'll just be like, you could probably run it over with a car and it would be fine. Well, clearly I'm not the only person who thinks so. So I don't know. Maybe I need to find someone with an RV who would let me test these things. How much could an RV possibly weigh? Speaking of RVs, This is just a neat little thing, and I think this is like the bread and butter for 3D printing is like weird specific adapters and things that you maybe not might not be able to just buy super easily, but you can print in moments, and a clean water fill cap adapter of some kind for your camper van. This you can see they've got a little like rubber grommet around there for it looks like one of those sort of squeeze lock type fittings. That's spectacular. That's my favorite thing. It's just the niche nerdery that goes on in the 3D printing world. I found some tent stakes, some of which were pretty plain, like, okay, 3D printed tent stake, like this one. But some of them I thought were really nifty, and I actually kind of want to test out. Like this that has, you can see how it's got these little pinchers here for the cable to wrap through. I thought that was a pretty nifty design. But specifically ones like this, and I found a bunch of variations on this theme of these big threads to twist the stake into the ground. I feel like that would hold beautifully. I mean, just I have no proof of that, but just in the simulator of my imagination, I think that something like this would work really well. So yeah, I thought those were pretty nifty. Let's see here. Oh, and I think I'm going to go out of order here a little bit. This one. Oh yeah, these were the coolest tent stakes that I found. I love the way that they nestle together with this little ring, and they just sort of, instead of just having a bunch of objects floating around, they've got their own little carrier clip. I think that's a great design. That's super fun. It's amazing to see just how creative the 3D modeling community is. Let's go back a few to where I left off here. Here we go. I thought this one was kind of nifty. Another one of those kind of like all-purpose stick reusing devices. It's just this central hub, but it can help you. I like they call it the Tento circle. I could see this being useful in a lot of applications. Like the first thing that popped into my mind had nothing to do with camping, but with gardening. Like if I wanted to tent off a plant in my garden, something like that, I feel like this would be useful. Or even as sort of like an ad hoc like trellis holder for climbing plants. I think this would be pretty neat. And I have some 3D printed objects in my garden that have been there for years and that are still in great shape, including a bird feeder and a squirrel feeder that's screwed onto the side of a tree. The tree, it's been there long enough that the tree is starting to like grow around it, and yet it has not succumbed to the force. It's like a coppery, like a silky copper kind of color. Yeah, it didn't get bleached. I don't know what's in it. It's also in a pretty shady area, so like it doesn't get blasted with direct sunlight. But that's a good question. Yeah, it was, and it's just PLA. It was a high temp PLA, and it's been doing great. This I thought was neat, and you can find lots of variations on this kind of thing. But it's these 3D printed hubs for slotting PVC pipes into, so you can make all kinds of constructions. And there's even parametric versions of these hubs so that you can specify angles and declinations to sort of create custom structures. These hubs in this project in particular are designed to make this shape of a thing. But this could be fun. I can see in a camping context as creating like an auxiliary space for like kids to play around in, while the grown-ups hang out and use those little wine stake things that you can put in the ground. Yes, we looked at those already. Oh, here's another kind of similar hub-based design. I thought this one was pretty nifty. Using aluminum rods, which is not something I see very often in the 3D printing world. Oftentimes you'll see PVC or wooden dowels, stuff like that. But this almost has like a kind of futuristic, like 2001: A Space Odyssey look to it, with the aluminum rods and the 3D printed hubs. I just thought that was neat. They call it an ultra lightweight camping table, but I kind of just want to have one because it looks cool. Other similar things, a replacement tent joint like this. We had somebody bring in a joint for their tent a few weeks ago, which had broken. It was really old and it had snapped. And we were able to glue the two halves back together and then use our 3D scanner downstairs to take a scan of the existing object, because we couldn't find one. We found a lot like this, but hers had a really specific angle to it. So we were able to reproduce her busted part using 3D scanning, which is just amazing to be able to do down there. We've gotten better at it over the years. Here's another similar thing for your tents. All of these 3D models are pretty intense. This one, you can see they're like improving their lives over the crappy Velcro strap to something much more elegant, and that's an effort I can always appreciate. So after I found the tent things, I thought, like, well, what else are people potentially going to take camping? I searched for air mattress accessories, and I found a couple interesting ones. From a super plain, like, replacement cap, if you happen to have left yours at the campsite or whatever, all the way up to this thing, which I think was pretty nuts, to turn like a massive industrial blower into a air mattress adapter, so you could like fill your whole air mattress in 0.2 of a second or whatever. I thought that was very amusing. A solar panel mount, this is just like a touch of how deep the well is. Whatever specific thing you're looking for, chances are there are dozens, even hundreds of models for that specific thing. So if you're doing the type of glamping where you're off grid enough not to have your own power source and you need to supplement it with solar, like, here you go, strap that to your RV. And then thinking about camping gets me thinking about, like the further I get from civilization and the comforts that I have to give up, right? And my metric for the apocalypse will be when I am no longer to have eggs. I eat eggs every morning, and I will probably perish without eggs. So I started looking for egg-related things, because I would obviously have to take eggs with me if I was going camping. And I found a couple nifty little like egg carriers, specifically for like backpacking or things like this. This one's very simple, for use to carry eggs where they may get crushed. Incredibly simple. And then I found this one, which I just love the over-engineering involved, with little thermoplastic polyurethane fingerlets to gently cradle the egg. But of course, you print those out of something with like a shock-absorbing material, and then that whole thing fits into the rigid protective case. Totally love this, 100%. Sort of want to just print a bunch of them and, like, when I get eggs from the store, just transfer them into this just for kicks. But yeah, that is where I stopped looking as with egg stuff. I was like, I think we covered it. It's even got, like, look at this. Look at the little embedded magnets in there. Like, it's terrific. And I think the designer mentioned that they were taking it bicycling. Yes, to carry eggs in bicycle trip. Which, yeah, there's no circumstance in which you should not have access to eggs. Eggs and hot showers. If those things go away, I turn to a dust. So yeah, those are the things that I saved pertaining to camping. And I want to show you how you might go about getting some of these things 3D printed in the Idea Lab. So for starters, part of it is scouring the internet, kind of like I did when I was looking for this stuff. Big databases like Printables and Cults3D and MakerWorld, those are good places to look. But there's also some like deep search type places like stlfinder.com. Let's see if this will load for me here. Oh, it's verifying I'm human. It's going to ask for a DNA sample. Here we go. STL Finder is interesting. It's kind of like Google for 3D models. It scours the web specifically for 3D model files that are being hosted online.
This is a new one.
Yeah, STL Finder kind of took over where Yegi left off. Do you remember Yegi?
Yeah, it stopped working.
Yeah.
It wouldn't even respond.
Yeah, I think they stop being able to afford hosting or something like that. So STL Finder does pretty much the exact same thing. It's like I remember in the early days of the internet, there was a search engine called Lycos. Does anybody remember Lycos? That would let you search the web for file types. So you could search for .MIDI files or .exe files, and it's like, that doesn't exist anymore. But STL Finder kind of does that for you. And even Etsy is a cool place to look for 3D models. Oftentimes let's just search for STL and see what we find here. Yeah, different packs, design packs, stuff like that. And you pay the designer a little bit of money in exchange for the files. And some of these other databases work that way too, like Cults 3D. I think one of these, the tent pegs. The designer wants $1.47 to download this STL file. Totally worth it, and you absolutely should support these independent designers. So let's say you find something that you're interested in. Well, your next step is going to be to go to baldwinlib.org/idealab. We just got these new laptops with like RGB keyboards, and it's blinding. Like, it's hard to type because the blue light just smelts your retinas. baldwinlib.org/idealab. Here we go. This is the Idealab webpage. If we scroll down here a little bit, you'll see this big button. Click here to send us your 3D model for printing. And that's going to open up the print request form. Super straightforward. You just fill out your name, your contact info, stuff like that. You get to choose whether you want us to pester you via email or pester you via telephone. And right here where it says provide a URL link to your project. Well, let's say it's something that you found on like MakerWorld where it's a free to download. You can literally just copy and paste that URL, or from Thingiverse. They have nice tidy little URLs with just a thing number. And you can paste that right in there into the URL link section. If it's something like the tent pegs here, where you have to pay the designer, you download those files onto your computer at home. You can then upload the files that you downloaded into this section here, upload your STL file. And if you happen to have a project, here it says upload up to 5 supported files. If you have more than 5, just zip them and toss the zip in there. You can specify your color and filament type. If you have no preference, just leave it blank. And sometimes when you're looking at the like thing description on those databases, the designer will say what filament they think will work best, right? So you can just translate that into here. But one of the benefits to providing us with the URL link is that we can just go ahead and read that whole description and any particulars that the designer might have. Questions and comments usually is people who say, like, I need more than one of the thing. Can you please print me 5 copies? Or can you make sure of the dimensions, things like that. Then when you hit submit, your print enters our print request queue. You enter at the bottom of the queue, and it's like a playlist of prints that works its way up to the top. When yours gets up near the top, Idealab staff is going to review your print and make sure it's printable. We're going to see how much material it's going to consume. If it happens to be under 200 grams, well, everybody who uses the Idealab gets 200 grams of filament for free every month. So we'll just go ahead and print it for you. If we see that it's over 200 grams, we will send you an email with instructions to purchase your own filament from a third party and bring your filament in, and we'll print with what you provide to us. And usually turnaround time is anywhere from a day or two to a couple of weeks. Just sort of depends on how many requests are in the queue. But we have so many 3D printers down there that things have been moving pretty quickly lately. And on the off chance that we're so bogged down with requests that we can't possibly keep up, when you go to visit this form, you'll see a little message up here that says, wah, wah, sorry, try again later, we're full. But that doesn't happen too often. Yeah, so that's how you take advantage of 3D printing in the Idealab. So do it. 3D print something. We want to do it. It's our favorite thing ever to 3D print stuff. So yeah, and if you have any questions about anything, I'm going to be up here for a little while. The lab's going to be open until 9 tonight. And all of the links are going to be in the description of this YouTube video, which you can view on our YouTube channel. There's a link to that on the Idealab website. So yeah, that's Idealab Live. Yeah.